They're the sort of violent end of the spectrum.
Okay.
But they also have the same lack of empathy, lack of emotions, ability to manipulate. All of the character traits, and there are a number which we can go through, are apparent in both. But the sociopath typically never ends up in jail, and the psychopath more often than not does.
So the sociopath is really more abusive emotionally and mentally to the other person.
Yes.
As opposed to, you know, pulling a weapon out of their pocket or something like that.
That's right. A sociopath is, if you think about your typical career con artist, the guy who will troll dating websites and pick up multiple partners and then bleed them dry, normally living a very parasitic lifestyle, living off these people. They don't care if you have no money, if you're a single mother. I mean, they will bleed you dry because that's their agenda. That is your typical sociopath. Rarely can they be held accountable for it legally because you volunteered to give them everything you had.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, now I want to talk a little bit, before we go into how to spot a sociopath, because I love this. Are you dating a sociopath? 10 tips you need to know. And I am obsessed with this card. This is such a great cheat sheet for people out there. But I want to first talk a little bit about what's happening in Hollywood, because Hollywood is chock full of sociopaths. I mean, am I correct on that?
Well, there are some who one could argue are sociopaths, some who I think are just really troubled.
That's true. Okay, now we have a question. HSBC King, are sociopaths looking for material gains from their preyed on victims?
That's an excellent question. Frequently, sociopaths will look for material gains, normally money, but what they are actually being driven by is power. They need to dominate. Bleeding you dry is one way that they achieve that. Others might...
financially, you mean?
Bleeding you dry financially.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The other one is for the psychopath.
Right, okay, got it.
Others might enter relationships where they are just verbally abusive, where they use humiliation, and those kinds of tactics. But the ones... so you want to be aware of all kinds of attempts where somebody really is showing a lack of genuine empathy towards their partner. And, yeah, I mean, be aware if somebody's asking you for money, or if we're asking you to get, and always coming up with a sob story. Just be aware. I
ask my boyfriend for money a lot. I wonder if he thinks I'm a sociopath. No, I'm just kidding. Technoid, I appreciate your comment. He said, call me easy, if you will, but I sort of find anything that two pretty women are discussing to be interesting, at least for a while. We appreciate that. So, Gary, my daughter asks me for money all the time, too. So are there any celebrities, I don't want to put you on the spot, but are there any celebrities in Hollywood that kind of pop up in your mind that you could potentially classify as a sociopath?
Well, there was now, what was her name on The Bachelor? The young lady on The Bachelor.
Which one?
The one who Courtney.
Oh, yes,
right. So,
Courtney.
Courtney on The Bachelor.
She got a lot of attention from her crazy ways on that show.
That's right.
Right.
So one could say she potentially, I mean, I'm not going to diagnose her, but she was charming when she wanted to be. She really managed to convince The Bachelor that she was the right person, but you know, behind the scenes, she was actually not a very nice person, and the other women were able to see that. So
right.
Potentially, she could be.
Now, what about Kim Kardashian? Because I've heard her described before as a sociopath. I don't know if that's really accurate. We have a story this week about her new relationship with Kanye West, which people have just been kind of outraged about her, and you know, the fact that she married Chris Humphries and then 72 days later they split up, and she's been kind of trashing him in the press. And so people think that she's very manipulative and she just kind of uses and abuses people to get what she wants. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, okay, so being manipulative is definitely a sign of being a sociopath. I think somebody in the situation of Kim Kardashian, well, I mean, my personal opinion is either she's being manipulated by somebody else behind the scenes who's pushing her to behave.
Kris Jenner. Hint, hint. She has a serious momager.
Yeah.
Which is a mom that's a manager.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was thinking without wanting to say it. So
I'll say it for you, no worries.
so it's possible that she's not really the manipulator, that someone else is pulling her strings.
Interesting. Alabama Guy 37 says hello to my guest. Bolero Blue, I believe, is talking about Kate Gosselin and saying that Kate Gosselin, I think it's Kate Gosselin, was just grifting for free cereal on her Twitter yesterday and has also done it in the past with Keurig Coffee Maker, People, coffee, free food, and lots of gift cards. Yes, Bolero Blue was referring to Kate Gosselin. I mean, is that, Rimorox wants to know, would you describe Carrie Prejean as a sociopath? The, was it Miss America or Miss USA? I always get those two pageants confused. They seem the same to me, but they're two very different things. Sorry to all you beauty queens out there. But that was the pageant contestant who gave the answer about how she didn't believe in gay marriage and she was really slammed and Donald Trump kind of stuck up for her. I don't know, but that might be a stretch.
I think that just because someone says things that you don't want to hear doesn't mean they're a sociopath. Frequently, a sociopath will actually say things that you do want to hear, and that's how they suck you in.
Oh, so they don't want to do anything to really tick you off initially.
They're the most charming people. I mean, if you put a sociopath in front of a camera, they'll probably say everything that they should say.
Okay, so then Carrie Prejean is not a sociopath because she said the complete opposite of what she probably should have said when she answered that question.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit before. Oh, can we talk about Levi Johnston? You know, he's Bristol Palin's baby daddy,
right?
And he's quite the little media hog. Now we spoke with Bristol Palin exclusively about the fact that he's expecting another child out of wedlock with a new girlfriend. And Bristol Palin was completely shocked. She said, when she heard the news, she said, "No way, shut up." And she seems to be pretty upset about it. Sociopath or not?
I think we need to know a lot more about him.
True.
He could be a sociopath. He could be a typical male with a healthy sex drive.
And healthy sperm count. He's impregnating women left and right.
Very healthy sperm.
I mean, dear Lord. Technoid is saying, I have wondered how anyone can con people as a standard mode of operation and at the same time have any compassion at all. They don't go together.
Well, exactly. So what happens is sociopaths have no compassion. And that's why they con you so efficiently.
Not at all. I mean, they're missing the sensitivity chip.
Yes, the certain parts of the brain in the frontal cortex that are connected with empathy, impulse control, making emotional connections are actually underdeveloped. They're smaller than in morally normal individuals.
Oh, that's sad.
It's sad, yes, because it highlights the fact that this too, as with many things, is a biological disorder of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still important for us, you and me, and our families and our children, to be aware of these people because they're dangerous. It might not be their fault that they were born bad, but they're dangerous and they're going to hurt us.
They have problems.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious because, you know, I'm of the understanding that when you go and seek professional help, that can be very beneficial. A lot of people seem to be ashamed of it, or people think that it's a waste of time, or there's nothing wrong with me. But when it comes to these types of people that are dealing with these kind of disorders, in a way, it sounds like, how can they correct it? I mean, I guess, first of all, probably, I'm guessing, understanding that they have some kind of a problem.
That would be a start.
Okay.
Often they don't actually think they have a problem. In fact, they think that they're actually smarter than the rest of us because they don't see the world as we see it. So it's impossible for them to understand that they're seeing things differently. We see the world, we're limited by moral boundaries, by a code of ethics. They're not. In some ways, they actually see us all as sort of fools, as just guinea pigs. But on the other hand, they suffer enormously from boredom because they have such a shallow depth of emotions. Boredom?
Yes. Wow. Well, I guess, yeah, that makes sense, right?
That's their worst negative emotion is boredom.
Right. Huh, that's interesting. Alabama Guy. Oh, that's sweet. Dorothy, I missed you last week or whenever you weren't here. I wasn't here last week. I was sick, and I really appreciate that, Alabama Guy. Rimorox, again, I'm really enjoying your comments. So politicians are essentially sociopaths.
Now that's a great comment.
Some of them, I mean, John Edwards.
Well, actually, having to say about politicians, you could argue that politicians and CEOs of companies, sociopaths they fill those jobs brilliantly, because you have to get to that level, you have to not care what people think about you. Sociopaths do not care what people think about them. You have to have a drive for power and dominance. Perhaps somebody else would look at these jobs and think, gosh, that's a lot of responsibility. But somebody who is a sociopath might say, gosh, that's a lot of power. So,
oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And really, when you're the CEO of a large company or a politician, you know, you can't really worry about hurting feelings.
Yes.
You know, that's kind of not in the job description.
Exactly.
You just have to make the decisions that are best for the company. So that's really interesting, I must say. Okay, so I want to talk really quick, just to jump off. Oh, you know, I do have a question for you. I don't know if anybody was following the story this week about Alec Baldwin and his stalker. Alec Baldwin, in case you had not heard about this, I can't believe that Alec Baldwin has a stalker, but God,
that was my reaction.
God bless. I mean, you
Why?
know, hey, why not? I see him in church a lot when I'm out in East Hampton. He has a house out there, and I saw him last Easter Sunday, not the one that just passed, but the one prior. And anyway, so he has this stalker, this woman, Genevieve Sabarin. She's a Canadian actress. And they met in 2002 on the set of The Adventures of Pluto Nash. They just kind of had this, you know, loose kind of friendship. And then last year, or 2010 actually, he took her out for dinner to try to help her get some acting jobs in the U.S. He claims he did it as a favor to a friend. Who knows what the extent of the relationship is? But the girl has gone, you know, wild in her head now that he proposed to his girlfriend, Ilaria Thomas, who's a yoga instructor here in New York. And she was arrested because she kept knocking on his door, wondering where he was. I was on the Today Show yesterday morning talking about this, and I was thinking to myself, this is something I wanted to ask you about. When people become stalkers and become so obsessed like that, what do you classify that as?
Well, I think with stalking, it's not. I think it's more a different kind of emotional disturbance, because the stalker is following somebody who typically they can't have. A sociopath typically goes for easy prey.
Okay.
A stalker is suffering from, they're certainly not in the realm of sociopaths. I'd say they're more in the realm of just somebody who's suffering from a lot of emotional disturbances. Who knows what happened in their childhoods.
Right.
Maybe they're suffering from depression, delusions, paranoia. They're suffering, they're hurting a lot.
It seems that way.
Yes.
House of David, welcome to the room. Bolero Blue is saying about Alec Baldwin's stalker, that's sad, sick, and dangerous. And yes, it is. Technoid, I disagree with Alec Baldwin's politics, but we'll forever love him from all of his great appearances on SNL. Makes me laugh and wins my heart. Yeah, he is. He's funny. He's a good actor.
Yeah.
Okay, now, I want to talk a little bit about the checklist. So, kids, get out your pen and paper or wherever it is that you write things down, and let's talk about tips you need to know to find out if you're dating a sociopath.
Yeah. Okay, so the first thing is the sociopath is going to be very charming. They're going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to have amazing social skills. Now, having said that, not everybody who's charming is a sociopath, but it's just one thing on the list. Then if you add that to the second thing on the list, which is a sociopath will have an enormous ego. So they will regale you with these stories. You will think, my goodness, this guy's lived 9 lives. He's run this company. He went to all these countries. He's in charge of this and that. And I mean, the stories are fantastical, but the sociopath will convincingly tell you these stories.
So are they accurate stories?
Oh, no.
No. They're all lies.
Which
okay.
brings me to point number 3.
Okay.
Pathological lying. So that's the thing. If you delve deeper into any story, it's not going to stack up. So, delve deeper by all means, but don't waste your time going too deep. Once you've realized it's a pack of lies, run for your life. The other thing is that the sociopath will typically blame other people. So nothing's ever their fault. It doesn't matter if they are caught in the act of committing a crime. I mean, there was the example, okay, this would probably fall into the realm of psychopath, but it's to say that rapist who raped a bunch of women a few weeks ago, and then he said he was the victim.
Oh,
That's
yeah, okay.
typical.
Okay. So they turn it around in
Yes,
their mind.
they are always the victim.
Got it.
So we have that. What else do we have? My goodness! If you're on a date with such a person, they will move very quickly. It won't be long before they'll be declaring their undying love. They want to get married straight away. They barely know you, and they want
jump into it really
jumping
quickly.
into it. Absolutely
Scary stuff.
Yeah.
I'm really kind of, sorry not to interrupt, but I'm just kind of going down memory lane of all of these different people that I dated and thinking that, wow, some of them were really creepy.
Yes. Oh, well, there's 4% of the population is a sociopath. That's 1 in 25. Means they're everywhere.
Wow.
And most of them never end up in jail.
Wow. Okay. All right. So continue.
This is a big one. It's called pity play. They will appeal to the pity of morally normal individuals. They'll tell you, my parents are ill, they need money, I have cancer. There was a woman in the news just the other day who actually has been jailed for pretending she is having terminally ill cancer. I
saw that.
That's right. And that's a typical sociopath.
That
sick. Is archetypal.
That reminds me of all the spam that I get. Like I'm trapped in a foreign country,
yes.
Please send me money or whatever. Those spammers must be sociopaths too.
Oh, God, yes.
We have a quick question.
Sure.
I think there's some hands raised as well. I'm not sure, though, if I can do anything with that. But Alabama guy, is it bad to have an online relationship with someone you hardly know?
Well, you need to get to know them. So eventually meet them in person, find out their deal, because a lot of these are your typical career con artist is trolling the online dating media for prey. So if you're vulnerable and you look like easy prey, then you want to find out sooner who you're involved with.
Okay. All right. So continue with your list.
Well, those are the main points on the list, actually. We've got, I'll recap, charisma and charm, enormous ego, overly attentive. Oh, I did miss one. Okay. Jekyll and Hyde personality.
Oh.
Absolutely. So 1 minute you are just everything to them, and the next minute they'll be snapping at you, they'll be annoyed, they'll be aggravated. So if you see really sort of black and white moments like that, again, be aware. All of this on its own is probably harmless, but when you add it together and you build a personality using all of this.
Okay, so now how can people, now we know what the warning signs are, but are there certain kind of people that kind of fall prey to these? I mean, I know you said they prey on people who are vulnerable and weak, but I mean, it's frightening. What can single women and single men do proactively to kind of make sure that they don't fall into this sort of trap?
Well, the first thing is awareness, because until recently, I didn't even know the meaning of the word sociopath. I think most people don't know what it means. And first of all, if we're aware of these things, and it doesn't matter how vulnerable we are, we're less likely to fall into a trap. Because like you said, we're all vulnerable at some point in our lives, whether it's all the time or whether it's just occasionally. And that's when they will strike. I would like to live in a world where we teach our children the meaning of the word sociopath at the same time that we're teaching them about safe sex.
Right.
Because that would
be
better.
So they can be aware that there are some people in their surroundings that may not be the most stable people.
Absolutely.
Rimmerocks, I am adoring this question and this comment. How many of these attributes do you need to be qualified a sociopath? Not that I'm applying for the position, just wanted to know.
Good question. I'd say probably about... There's actually a longer list which actually covers 20 detailed attributes, and you can find that. That list was compiled by Dr. Robert Hare, who is sort of the expert on sociopath. I think if you probably cover at least half of those, half of those you want to be worried. All
right, Rimmerocks, what's the verdict? Are you, now that you have your question answered, are you considered a sociopath or not? He said, or she said, I don't know. I noticed I matched a few and started to get nervous. That's really funny. Ray PNN is saying, I hope I don't meet the requirements. I mean, do you think you meet any of these requirements?
Well, it depends. I mean, sometimes, oh, I don't know.
I'm overly attentive. I think sometimes maybe I am. Sometimes I'm pretty, quick on the phone, but then other times I'm really not, so I guess that's not a good one. But That's really interesting. I find this just so unbelievably fascinating. I want to talk a little bit about somebody who may or may not be considered a sociopath, Angelina Jolie.
Right.
You know, everything that went on with her stealing Brad Pitt right out from under Jen Aniston when they were still married. How does that kind of fall into this whole discussion? You know, people that are unfaithful or people that don't respect other people's boundaries. Because that seems manipulative to me in a way.
Well, it's tricky because Angelina Jolie does come across as such a sort of hard character. But on the other hand, I do find it hard to classify someone with an eating disorder as being a sociopath. Because I don't think the two live in the same mental space. So whilst her actions were absolutely horrible, and, you know, she's I guess a home wrecker. Oh, I'm sure Brad Pitt is not innocent in that too.
No, I don't think so.
Sure, whatever was going on behind closed doors, things were not rosy in his household. So, but then it is difficult because, I mean, someone like Angelina Jolie, she's got other issues. I just don't know.
It's a tough one. Well, we heard in this week's issue of In Touch, really interesting stuff. You know, she used to be married to Billy Bob Thornton, and he's coming out with a book, a memoir, called The Billy Bob Tapes, A Cave Full of Ghosts. Creepy. And so Angelina wrote the foreword to his memoir, which is nice. They have a nice friendship, even though they split up. But sources are telling In Touch that there's some kind of flame still sparked between those two. And she went on and in the forward about how he inspired her to really get into acting and gave her all the confidence that she needed. And Brad Pitt is not so pleased about her gushing about her ex in this book, which you can kind of understand that. And also we know that they had a little rendezvous in Berlin at the Kempinski Hotel this past February. What they were doing in a hotel room together, I do not know, but it's very, very strange. And I have to say, I am so used to talking about Angelina and just always very strange things. She does a lot of good for humanity. She's, involved in a lot of charities, and we really love her for that. But she's a strange bird.
She certainly is, and it's interesting, actually. The boot is on the other foot. Normally, she's the one getting jealous of Brad and his friendship with Jennifer.
Right.
And now he's getting jealous of her and her friendship with her ex.
Right, exactly. Now, have you been watching Dancing with the Stars at all? I've been tuning in every so often. Have you been watching it all? Getting little clips?
I can't say I have.
Well, some people are really big Dancing with the Stars fans, and others just, don't care about it. I don't really care about it, but sometimes I do tune in just to see how people are making fools of themselves. But anyway, I have to say, this woman, Katherine Jenkins, she's a fantastic opera singer, and there have just been so many crazy stories that have come out about her. She was engaged to a TV host, Gethin Jones. I don't know. I'm not familiar with him. I think he might be pretty well known in the UK. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. But they were engaged, and she thought she found the man she was going to spend the rest of her life with. And as it turns out, he proposed with a $16,000 ring during a romantic trip to Mexico. And as it turns out, she was dumped right before the wedding, and now Dancing with the Stars is kind of her revenge dance. So I'm really gunning for her. I really hope that she goes far, because I hate to hear these stories about, engagements broken off last minute and, these sorts of things. I just don't like that at all. So also, I want to talk a little bit of style, because I said that I'm adoring this watermelon color that you have on with the black. It's so gorgeous. And we have a celebrity this week who is, if I can find my page, we have a celebrity this week who is wearing a very, very similar color to you. Where is my page? I lost it. That's not it. Okay, yes. It's Emma Stone in Giambattista Valli, right here. She's wearing that nice, beautiful hot pink.
She is.
And we're featuring this week peplum dresses, which I adore. It's like basically a dress with a little tiny skirt on it, a baby skirt, I like to call it. And it's such a great look, and I love how you are rocking the popular color in Hollywood. I mean, not only are you so knowledgeable about all these important issues that affect people, but you're also fashionable and stylish. So we're very happy, you know, when we have guests on that kind of, you know, do everything.
It's all about the bright colors this season, isn't
exactly.
it?
So now, tell us a little bit about when you got started on this project, and also what made you write this story. Did you have an experience yourself?
I had an experience which I realized with hindsight this was a sociopath. It's how I learned the meaning of the word. My experience was mild compared to what happens in the story. The reason I wrote the story was because I'm actually trained as a neuroscientist, and so I'm interested in mental illness, I'm interested in distorted thinking, and I wanted to combine these two characters. I wanted to combine Maxine, who suffers from constant mental pain, with Sam, the sociopath, who feels almost nothing at all. And the aim really was, other than entertaining, because I kept the book light and humorous, the aim was to, first of all, allow people to understand what's a sociopath in the form of a novel rather than a factual book, which sort of gives you the clinical experience.
Well, it's smart because nobody wants to really read a textbook at night when they cozy up in bed.
Right.
They want to read something that's fiction or something that's, you know, more entertaining. So it's smart, very smart.